This is Lancashire, where for generations more cotton was spun and woven than anywhere else in the world. Here, at the height of the industry's prosperity, more than 600,000 operatives worked in cotton mills like this. But today, over half the mills in Lancashire no longer produce cotton, and fewer than 200,000 are employed in the industry. This mill turned out more than 200 million yards of cotton in nearly 70 years. Once they employed 200 cotton workers here. Sally Clegg was a mill girl for 20 years. After 45 years in the weaving shed, Jack Shutt now heads a tiny staff which rears 57,000 chickens at a time, about 250,000 each year. In the last 10 years, Lancashire has almost completed a new industrial revolution. Increasing competition abroad and the development of synthetic materials have drastically cut the demand for Lancashire cotton. Since 1950, more than 550 mills have been closed and converted for all sorts of light industries. Operatives have been taught new skills, which has often led to a new way of life. But for most, the background is still the austere mill buildings and the bleak rows of houses built in another age to cope with other problems. Most of the mills which still produce cotton have brought their equipment and conditions of work up to date, like this 100-year-old mill at Hyde, just over the Cheshire border, which used to employ about 3,000 operatives, and today, with vastly increased production, still needs 2,400 to keep the modern machines running. Many of the workers and their families have been with this mill for generations, like Eleanor Pleasance, who's worked in the carding room for more than 50 years. With her family, she's given the mill over 350 years' service. Today, many of the operatives come from faraway places such as Pakistan and Italy. Here, in this light, airy spinning room, each machine is equipped with a monster vacuum cleaner designed to pick up the cotton dust before it's had time to settle and become a menace to health. Careful planning is needed to fit the new industries into the old mills. Vast mill floors, networked with ceiling supports that can't be removed, have had to be adapted for the new work. And the workers, many of whom now drive their own cars, have had to adapt themselves to their new jobs, as in this extensive group of factories in the Manchester area, where 6,000 employees, many of them ex-cotton operatives, work in 8 converted mills. At this factory, millions of yards of plastic-covered insulated cable for electrical work are turned out every year. Some new industries have given the outside of the mills a facelift too. This carpet factory near Bolton has housed its ultra-modern machinery for tufted carpet manufacture in a 60-year-old mill. Since the factory was opened 5 years ago, 6 million square yards of carpet have been produced in every colour and a multitude of designs. The raw materials, both synthetic and wool, are spun in another converted mill at Darwin. They're woven here and backed with latex to secure the tufts. 3/4 of the present 220 carpet makers worked in this mill when it produced cotton. Nellie Charnock was a cloth looker for 14 years and now supervises the rug making department. Ethel Hyam today makes carpet pattern books. They are all earning about twice as much as they did as cotton workers in 1939 and doing 5.5 hours less a week. Over at Middleton, latex foam rubber has flowed into the old-time cotton mills, and many operatives stayed to learn the new techniques, though some prefer to brew up their own tea, just as cotton workers have done for generations. This firm took over 4 mills, the first in 1949, and converted them to foam rubber production. 1,400 employees now operate the highly specialized machines which produce cushions, mattresses, pillows and upholstery in what is now one of the largest plants of its kind in Europe. The biggest group of converted mills includes one at Lee, where wiring systems for motor cars are made. They're assembled by girls who yesterday would have worked in a cotton mill, but who've proved that Lancashire skill and craftsmanship are quickly adaptable. These factories manufacture all kinds of goods as well as electrical cable, and they export them all over the world. Welfare, which was almost non-existent in the old days, is now a top priority. So there are social clubs and modern, bright canteens and well-equipped first aid rooms. Welfare plays a big part, too, in a large group which manufactures equipment for the car and aircraft industries and now occupies 7 mills in North Lancashire. Their sports ground at Burnley covers 16 acres, and in a county famous for sport, may help to produce some of the champions of tomorrow. While new industries are taking over where King Cotton once ruled, some customs are unchanged. The famous Wakes Weeks, which are today more often Wakes Fortnights, still close down entire towns for the annual holiday. But today there's a difference. No longer are Blackpool and Morecambe the only choice. Thousands of Lancashire workers now go all over Britain and the continent in search of wider horizons, by land, sea and air, to Paris and Penzance, to London and Lugano, to Torquay and Toulouse, leaving behind them the silent, empty towns. With the new industrial revolution has come a revolution in social life too. Many of the grim little back-to-back houses have disappeared to be replaced by gleaming new blocks of flats which rise as symbols of a new era. You can still find the cobbled alleyways, but today there's space for the children to play. There are homes which are easier to run. And the smile which Lancashire folk have always put on, even in the days of slump and depression, has today a new meaning. For the new industries now growing up are presenting them with fresh worlds to conquer.